The Morrison Family Investment Group met quarterly in my father's study, a wood-paneled room that smelled of old money and older leather. 23 family members gathered around the mahogany conference table, representing 4 generations of Morrisons, all eager to hear about the performance of our collective $200 million portfolio. I sat in my usual spot near the door, close enough to observe but far enough away to be easily forgotten. Excellent returns this quarter, my brother Marcus announced from the head of the table, standing beside Dad like a prince next to his king. Marcus had appointed himself as the family's unofficial investment spokesperson 3 years ago, right after he'd completed his MBA at Wharton. The portfolio is up 17% year-over-year. Our tech sector allocations are performing particularly well, and our real estate holdings in Austin and Miami have appreciated beyond projections. Applause rippled around the table. Dad beamed with pride at his eldest son, 42 years old and looking every inch the successful hedge fund manager he claimed to be. Custom suit, Patek Philippe watch, perfect haircut that probably cost more than most people's car payments. This is what happens when you let professionals manage serious money, Marcus continued, clicking through a PowerPoint presentation on the 70-inch screen mounted on the wall. Amateur investors get emotional, make reactive decisions, chase trends. Professional investors like our team understand market fundamentals, risk-adjusted returns, and portfolio diversification strategies. I sipped my water and said nothing. Around the table, cousins and aunts and uncles nodded along, absorbing Marcus's performance like it was gospel. Most of them had no idea how investment portfolios actually worked. They just knew that their quarterly distributions kept arriving, funding their lifestyles, and Marcus took credit for all of it. Now, Marcus said, his tone shifting to something more serious, we need to discuss portfolio access going forward. There have been some concerns raised about family members who might not fully understand the complexity of our investment strategy trying to get too involved in decision-making. My cousin Jennifer raised her hand. What kind of involvement are we talking about? Questions about specific holdings, requests to review individual investment performance, suggestions about sector allocation, Marcus replied. The kind of micromanagement that can interfere with our professional team's ability to execute strategy effectively. Sounds reasonable, Uncle Tom said. We hired experts for a reason. Let them do their jobs. Exactly, Marcus agreed. Which brings me to a proposal. I'd like to implement a tiered access system. Family members who demonstrate sophisticated understanding of investment principles would have full transparency and input rights. Others would receive quarterly summaries and distributions but wouldn't have access to the detailed portfolio management systems. How do you determine who's sophisticated? My Aunt Rachel asked. Educational background, professional experience, demonstrated investment knowledge, Marcus said smoothly. For example, I have an MBA in finance and work in asset management. Dad built his commercial real estate empire and understands market cycles. Cousin David is a CFO at a Fortune 500 company. We'd be in the first tier. Others. He paused, letting his gaze sweep the room and landing briefly on me. Others might be better served by a more simplified reporting structure. You mean people like Emma? My cousin Sarah said, following Marcus's gaze. No offense, Emma, but you work as a teacher. This is probably over your head anyway. I smiled politely. None taken. Exactly, Marcus said. Emma's a wonderful educator and we're all proud of her work with underprivileged kids. But investment management requires specific expertise that teaching elementary school doesn't provide. It's not an insult, it's just reality. I wouldn't expect her to explain portfolio beta coefficients any more than I'd expect her to ask me to teach 4th grade math. Laughter rippled around the table. Good-natured, familial laughter that wasn't meant to be cruel but landed that way nonetheless. Dad leaned forward. Marcus makes a good point. The Morrison Family Investment Group has grown beyond what your grandfather could have imagined when he started it 40 years ago. $200 million isn't play money. It requires serious oversight. And serious investors, Marcus added. People who understand what they're looking at when they review performance metrics. Emma, you still have a savings account at Community First Bank, right? Still driving that 10-year-old Subaru. I am, I confirmed. Perfect example, Marcus said, addressing the room. Nothing wrong with that lifestyle. It's practical, sensible, appropriate for a teacher's salary. But it's not the lifestyle of someone who thinks in terms of multi-million-dollar asset allocations. Emma probably has, maybe $20,000 in savings? 40 if she's been really disciplined. Something like that, I said quietly. See? That's my point. When your entire financial worldview is measured in thousands, it's genuinely difficult to conceptualize strategy at the million-dollar level. It's not Emma's fault, it's just the reality of different financial contexts. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I ignored it. So we're voting on this tiered system? Uncle Tom asked. I think we should, Marcus replied. All in favor of implementing sophisticated investor criteria for portfolio access, raise your hand. Hands went up around the table. Not everyone. Some of my younger cousins abstained, looking uncomfortable, but enough. More than enough. Dad's hand was up. Marcus's obviously. Most of the older generation who'd inherited money rather than earning it and liked the idea of being classified as sophisticated investors, even if they couldn't explain the difference between a stock and a bond. Motion carries, Marcus announced. I'll work with our legal team to formalize the criteria and notify everyone of their access level by end of month. Now let's move on to next quarter's rebalancing strategy. I'm proposing we take some profits from our tech positions and rotate into dividend-paying blue chips. More stability, less volatility. My phone vibrated again. And again. I pulled it out discreetly, glancing at the screen under the table. 3 messages from James Whitmore, the director of Whitmore Capital Management, the firm that had been managing the Morrison Family Investment Group's portfolio for 6 years. The firm I'd personally selected and contracted after conducting a comprehensive search of every major asset management company on the East Coast. James, quarterly meeting today? How are things? James, need to discuss the Henderson acquisition opportunity. Time sensitive. James. Also, Marcus Morrison just called requesting immediate access to move 50M into a private deal. Flagging for your approval per standard protocols. I read the last message twice, then typed a response. Deny the request. I'll call you in 5 minutes. Marcus was still talking, explaining his rebalancing strategy with charts and graphs that probably looked impressive to people who didn't know that every single recommendation he was making contradicted the long-term strategy we'd actually implemented 6 years ago. The strategy that had generated those 17% returns he was taking credit for. Question, I said, raising my hand. The room went quiet. Marcus looked surprised. I rarely spoke at these meetings. Yes, Emma? He said with exaggerated patience. This rebalancing strategy you're proposing. Moving from tech to dividend stocks. What's the projected impact on our 5-year compound annual growth rate? Marcus blinked. Well, it's difficult to project with certainty. Approximately, I pressed. If we rotate $50 million from high-growth tech positions into dividend stocks yielding, say, 3 to 4% annually, what does that do to our overall portfolio performance trajectory? It provides stability, Marcus said, recovering his composure. More predictable income streams. At the cost of growth, I pointed out. Our current tech allocation is averaging 28% annual returns. Dividend stocks might give us 4% plus some price appreciation, maybe 8% total if we're lucky. So we're trading 28% returns for 8% returns. That's a significant haircut. It's about risk management, Marcus countered. Tech stocks are volatile. They can drop just as fast as they rise. They can, I agreed. But over the 6-year period since the current investment strategy was implemented, our tech positions have consistently outperformed broader market indices. Our Amazon position is up 412%. Apple is up 318%. Microsoft is up 294%. Why would we exit positions that are demonstrably working? Marcus's jaw tightened. Emma, with all due respect, you're reading numbers from quarterly reports without understanding the underlying market dynamics. I understand that we're in a growth phase of the market cycle, I interrupted gently. I understand that inflation is low, interest rates are accommodative, and technology companies with strong fundamentals are benefiting from structural shifts in how businesses operate. I understand that rotating out of our best-performing positions into defensive holdings is exactly the wrong move at exactly the wrong time. You teach 9-year-olds, Marcus said, his patience evaporating. You don't have the expertise to. I have the quarterly reports, I said, which show that every major investment decision made over the past 6 years has generated positive returns, and every suggestion you've made during these family meetings has been politely ignored by whoever's actually managing the portfolio. That's because the management team understands complexity that you don't, Marcus snapped. Or, I said calmly, It's because the management team receives their instructions from someone else. Someone who implemented the current investment strategy and reviews every major decision before execution. Dad held up his hand. Emma, sweetheart, you're out of your depth here. Marcus works in this industry. He understands things that... Dad, Marcus works as a client relationship manager at a mid-sized wealth management firm, I said. He doesn't make investment decisions. He schmoozes clients and plays golf. His job is sales, not portfolio management. How dare you, Marcus started. It's not an insult, I said, echoing his earlier words back to him. It's just reality. You're very good at client relations. You're personable, confident, well-networked. But you've never actually managed a portfolio of this size, never executed a major asset allocation strategy, never conducted the kind of institutional-grade due diligence required for $200 million investment decisions. And you have. Marcus demanded. You with your teacher's salary and your tiny savings account and your 10-year-old car? I have, I said simply. The room went completely silent. That's absurd, Marcus said, but something in his voice had changed. Uncertainty creeping in around the edges. I pulled out my phone and dialed James Whitmore's number. Put it on speaker before anyone could object. Emma, James answered on the first ring. Got your message about Marcus's request. I've denied the transfer and flagged it in the system. Thank you, James, I said. I'm actually at the quarterly family meeting right now. You're on speaker. There seems to be some confusion about portfolio management authority. Ah, James said, understanding immediately. Would you like me to clarify the management structure? Please. Certainly. James's voice was crisp, professional, with the authority of someone who managed billions in assets. The Morrison Family Investment Group portfolio is managed by Whitmore Capital Management under a contract established 6 years ago. The sole decision-maker for the portfolio per the terms of that contract is Emma Morrison. She approves all major investment decisions, reviews quarterly performance, and has final authority over asset allocation, manager selection, and strategic direction. Marcus had gone pale. That's impossible. I'm looking at the contract right now, James continued. Signed 6 years ago by Emma Morrison, establishing her as the beneficial owner and sole authorized decision-maker for the $200 million portfolio formerly held by Morrison Family Trust. The trust was dissolved and reconstituted as an individually managed portfolio per her instructions. Emma doesn't have $200 million, Dad said weakly. The Morrison Family Investment Group portfolio currently stands at $234 million, James corrected. Up from the initial $200 million when Emma assumed control 6 years ago. The 17% year-over-year return that Marcus mentioned earlier? That's the result of the investment strategy Emma implemented. Heavy overweight in technology sector leaders, minimal fixed income allocation, no exposure to declining industries, regular rebalancing to capture momentum while managing risk. This is insane, Marcus said, but he was looking at me now with something between horror and disbelief. Emma, if this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke, I said calmly. 6 years ago, Grandpa Morrison died and left his entire estate to me. Not to the family trust, not split among descendants, not to Dad or you or anyone else. To me. Specifically. Exclusively. $200 million in liquid assets that he'd spent 40 years accumulating. That's not possible, Dad said. The will said. The will said exactly what Grandpa wanted it to say, I interrupted. He left you the commercial real estate portfolio, Dad, which was worth about $30 million at the time. He left Marcus $1 million trust fund. He left various amounts to other family members. And he left me everything else. The stock portfolio, the bonds, the cash holdings, the investment accounts. $200 million. Why? Marcus demanded. Why would he leave everything to you? Because I asked him to teach me about investing when I was 16 years old, I said. While you were partying at college and Dad was flipping properties, I was sitting in Grandpa's study every Sunday, learning how to read financial statements, analyze company fundamentals, understand market cycles. He taught me everything he knew about building wealth, and when he died, he trusted me to preserve what he'd built. You never told us, Dad said. Grandpa made me promise not to, I replied. He said the money would corrupt the family if everyone knew about it, turn us into people fighting over inheritances instead of building our own successes. He made me promise to keep it quiet, manage it responsibly, and only reveal the truth if it became necessary. And it's necessary now? Marcus asked bitterly. It became necessary the moment you tried to implement a tiered access system that would exclude people you deemed unsophisticated, I said. Marcus, you don't have access to the portfolio. You never did. You've been attending these quarterly meetings and presenting my investment results as if you had something to do with them, taking credit for returns that you didn't generate, and lecturing family members about investment sophistication that you don't actually possess. The quarterly distributions, Aunt Rachel said slowly. The money we all receive, where does that come from? From me, I said. Grandpa wanted the family to benefit from his legacy, so I set up a distribution system. Every family member receives quarterly payments proportional to their relationship to Grandpa. Children get more than grandchildren get more than great-grandchildren, but everyone gets something. Last year the family collectively received about $12 million in distributions. This year it'll be closer to $14 million based on portfolio performance. You've been giving us money, Uncle Tom said, while we treated you like you couldn't balance a checkbook. I have, I confirmed. And I'm fine with that, honestly. I don't need recognition or gratitude. I live comfortably on my teaching salary, which I actually enjoy despite what Marcus thinks. The portfolio money just accumulates and generates returns, and I'm happy to share those returns with family. Then why reveal it now? Dad asked. Why not just let things continue as they were? Because Marcus just tried to access $50 million for a private deal without my approval, I said, looking directly at my brother. James flagged it per our standard protocols. Care to explain what private deal requires immediate access to $50 million of family money, Marcus? Marcus's face had progressed from pale to bright red. I don't have to explain anything to you. Actually, you do, I said. It's my money. If you're trying to move $50 million out of the portfolio, I need to know why. It's a limited opportunity, Marcus said through gritted teeth. A real estate syndication that requires immediate capital commitment. The returns could be enormous. The returns could be fraudulent, I corrected. James, did you run preliminary due diligence on Marcus's request? I did, James confirmed over the speakerphone. The opportunity is a Dubai real estate project being marketed through private WhatsApp groups and unregistered broker-dealers. Multiple red flags, including promised returns of 40% annually, no audited financials, no regulatory oversight, and promotional materials that feature rented Lamborghinis and cryptocurrency millionaires. Classic characteristics of an investment scam targeting unsophisticated investors. The room had gone completely silent. Marcus, I said quietly, were you really about to put $50 million of family money into a WhatsApp investment scam? It's not a scam, Marcus protested, but his voice had lost all its earlier confidence. I have connections who vetted the deal. Connections who are probably part of the scam, I said. Or victims of it themselves who are now unwittingly recruiting others. This is exactly why I maintain sole control of the portfolio, to prevent decisions like this. You've been lying to us for 6 years, Marcus said, desperation creeping into his voice. Pretending to be poor, letting us think. I never pretended to be anything, I interrupted. I am a teacher. I do drive a 10-year-old Subaru and bank at Community First. I never claimed to be wealthy or poor. You all just assumed based on my profession and lifestyle. Those assumptions are not my responsibility. But you let us believe them, Dad said. I didn't correct them, I agreed. Grandpa taught me that people reveal their true character when they think you're powerless. He was right. Over the past 6 years I've watched this family operate, seen who treats people with respect regardless of their apparent status and who doesn't. It's been educational. My cousin Jennifer, who'd been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. The quarterly distributions we receive. Can you stop them? I can, I confirmed. The family distribution system is entirely discretionary. I could freeze all payments tomorrow if I wanted to. But you won't, Jennifer said. It wasn't a question. I won't, I agreed. Unless someone gives me a reason to. The distributions continue as long as family members aren't actively trying to sabotage the portfolio or commit fraud with family assets. I wasn't committing fraud, Marcus said weakly. No, you were just being reckless with other people's money while taking credit for returns you didn't generate, I said. Which brings me to my next point. Marcus, you're removed from any advisory role related to the Morrison Family Investment Group, effective immediately. No more quarterly presentations, no more investment suggestions, no more pretending you have anything to do with portfolio management. You can't do that, Marcus protested. I just did, I said. James, please note in the account files that Marcus Morrison is not authorized to request information, suggest changes, or access any aspect of the portfolio going forward. Noted, James confirmed. Emma, while I have you on the line, should we proceed with the Henderson acquisition opportunity? We need to move quickly if we want to participate in the Series D round. What's the allocation? I asked. $15 million for a 3% stake. Company is projecting IPO within 18 months at a valuation that would give us 8-to-1 return on investment. Run the full diligence package, I said. If everything checks out, approve the investment. Use funds from the healthcare sector allocation. We're overweight there anyway. Will do. Anything else you need? That's all for now, James. Thank you. Always a pleasure, Emma. He hung up. I looked around the table at 23 family members who were seeing me clearly for the first time in 6 years. Or possibly for the first time ever. I want to be clear about something, I said. The money that Grandpa left me isn't family money in the legal sense. It's my money. I choose to share the returns with family because that's what Grandpa wanted, but I'm not obligated to. The quarterly distributions could stop tomorrow. The entire portfolio could be redirected to charitable foundations or invested in ways that benefit only me. I don't do those things because I actually care about this family, despite how some of you treat me. Emma, Dad started. I'm not finished, I said gently. Dad, you've spent 6 years implying that my career choice makes me financially illiterate. Marcus, you've spent 6 years lecturing me about investment principles while I've been implementing the strategy that funds your lifestyle. Multiple family members have treated my questions and observations as cute attempts at participation rather than legitimate input from someone who actually knows what they're talking about. We didn't know, Aunt Rachel said. You didn't ask, I replied. Not once did anyone wonder how I could afford to live comfortably on a teacher's salary with no apparent financial stress. Not once did anyone question where the quarterly distributions were actually coming from or who was making the investment decisions that generated them. You all just assumed Marcus was responsible because he looks and acts like what you think a successful investor should look like. What do you want from us? Dad asked quietly. Honestly, nothing, I said. I don't need apologies or recognition or changed behavior. I've been managing just fine without any of that for 6 years. But Marcus's attempted $50 million withdrawal forced me to reveal everything, and now that it's out in the open we need new rules. What kind of rules? Uncle Tom asked. First, no more investment suggestions from family members unless they're coming through proper channels with actual analysis backing them up, I said. Second, quarterly meetings continue, but they're informational only. I'll present the results, answer questions, explain strategy, but decisions remain mine alone. Third, the tiered access system Marcus proposed is dead. Everyone gets the same level of transparency. Quarterly reports, annual summaries, and access to me if they have legitimate questions. That seems fair, Jennifer said. Fourth, I continued, and this is non-negotiable. Anyone who tries to access portfolio funds for personal investments, loans, or opportunities, without my explicit approval will have their quarterly distributions suspended permanently. This is a family investment portfolio, not a personal ATM. Marcus looked down at the table. Are we clear? I asked. Nods around the table. Some reluctant, some relieved, all of them understanding that the family dynamic had just shifted in a fundamental way. Good, I said. Now, unless there are questions about the actual portfolio performance, I think we're done here. I have a question, Cousin David said. He was the CFO Marcus had mentioned earlier, one of the few family members with actual financial expertise. The Henderson acquisition James mentioned. That's Henderson Medical Technologies. It is, I confirmed. They're revolutionizing diagnostic equipment, David said. If their IPO hits projected valuations, that $15 million investment could be worth over $100 million in 2 years. That's the analysis, I agreed. How did you get access to their Series D? Those rounds are usually reserved for institutional investors with established relationships. I've been investing in medical technology companies for 4 years, I said. Built relationships with founders, participated in earlier rounds for other companies, established a track record. Henderson's founders approached me directly. You have a reputation in the medical tech investment community, David said slowly, realizing something. I have a reputation in several investment communities, I confirmed. Medical technology, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, cybersecurity. I've made 43 investments over the past 6 years across those sectors. 31 have generated positive returns. 8 are still in early stages. 4 failed completely. The portfolio you all benefit from is just one part of a larger investment strategy. How much? Dad asked. Total. How much are you managing? I hesitated, then decided there was no point in half-truths anymore. Across all portfolios, including the Morrison family holdings, approximately $760 million. The silence that followed was absolute. $750 million, Marcus said faintly. You're managing $750 million while teaching 4th grade. 3rd grade this year, I corrected. And yes, turns out you can do both if you manage your time well and don't waste energy on things that don't matter. Like impressing your family, Aunt Rachel said softly. Like impressing anyone, I said. Grandpa taught me that real wealth doesn't announce itself. Real success doesn't need validation. You build something good, you protect it, you share the benefits with people you care about, and you don't worry about whether anyone understands or appreciates what you've done. He would be proud of you, Dad said, and for the first time in years he sounded like he actually saw me as something other than his underachieving younger child. I hope so, I said. He gave me an incredible gift. Not just the money but the knowledge and trust that came with it. I've tried to honor that gift by managing it responsibly and using it to benefit people beyond myself. The teaching, Jennifer said. You really do it because you want to, not because you need the income. I really do, I confirmed. I love teaching. I love working with kids, seeing them learn and grow, making a difference in their lives. The investment management is intellectual stimulation and financial security. The teaching is purpose. I need both. Marcus had been silent for several minutes, processing everything. Finally he looked up. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For the way I talked to you. For taking credit for your work. For trying to access money that wasn't mine to touch. I accept your apology, I said. But Marcus, you need to understand something. The Dubai real estate deal? That would have destroyed this family. $50 million gone, no legal recourse, probably criminal charges for whoever authorized the transfer. You were 10 minutes away from losing everything. I know, he said. I wanted to prove I could generate returns like the portfolio was showing. I wanted to be the successful investor everyone thought I was. The opportunity seemed perfect. High returns, exclusive access, a chance to finally earn the credit I'd been taking. That's how scams work, I said not unkindly. They prey on ego and ambition. They make you want to believe so badly that you ignore the warning signs. How did you know? Marcus asked. How did you know it was a scam? Because I've seen 100 pitches like it, I said. When you manage serious money, scammers come out of the woodwork. Guaranteed returns, exclusive opportunities, limited time offers. They all use the same playbook. Real investments are boring. They involve audited financials, regulatory compliance, transparent deal terms, and modest return projections. Anything that promises wealth without risk is lying. So what happens now? Dad asked. With the family, with the portfolio, with everything? Nothing changes operationally, I said. I continue managing the investments, family members continue receiving distributions, life goes on. The only difference is now you all know who's actually doing the work. And Marcus? Uncle Tom asked. Marcus is still family, I said. He still receives his quarterly distribution. He's just not representing himself as the portfolio manager anymore. If he wants to repair his reputation, he'll do it through his actual job, not by taking credit for mine. My phone buzzed. Another message from James. Henderson Diligence came back clean. Executing the investment. Also, you have 3 other pitch decks to review when you have time. I need to go, I said, standing up. I have actual investment decisions to make. James will send out the quarterly reports to everyone by end of week. If you have questions about the numbers, email me. If you want to suggest an investment opportunity, send a formal pitch deck and I'll review it. If you need financial advice, I'm happy to help. But the drama ends here. Emma, Dad said as I gathered my things. Your car. Your apartment. Your savings account. Why live like that if you don't have to? Because it's authentic, I said simply. This is who I am, Dad. I'm not interested in luxury cars or penthouse apartments or designer clothes. I'm interested in meaningful work, financial security, and using resources to make the world better. Grandpa's money lets me do all of that without compromise. He chose well, Dad said quietly. He did, I agreed. He saw something in me that most of you missed, not because it wasn't there but because you weren't looking. I walked out of the study and out of the house, leaving behind 23 family members who would spend the rest of the day processing the revelation that the person they'd dismissed as financially unsophisticated had been managing their wealth for 6 years. My phone rang as I reached my car. Catherine Chin, a venture capital partner I'd been working with on a renewable energy project. Emma, just heard you're in on Henderson, Catherine said. Smart move. Their diagnostic platform is going to change the industry. That's the bet, I said, starting the car. What can I do for you? I'm putting together a consortium for a wind farm project in Texas, she said. $20 million minimum commitment, projecting 15% annual returns with significant tax advantages. Interested? Send me the details, I said. I'll review and get back to you by Friday. Perfect. Also, a few of us are getting together next month to discuss impact investing strategies. You should come. Your perspective on balancing returns with social benefit is always valuable. Text me the details, I said. I'll be there if I'm free. We hung up and I sat in my 10-year-old Subaru in front of my family's mansion, checking email on my phone. 3 new investment opportunities, 2 portfolio updates, and a message from one of my students' parents thanking me for the extra tutoring I'd provided. This was my life. Teacher, investor, quiet manager of generational wealth, and the person my family had finally learned not to underestimate. I drove home to my modest apartment, where I'd spend the evening grading papers and reviewing pitch decks, living exactly the life I wanted with exactly the resources I needed. Tomorrow the family group chat would probably explode with messages. People processing, questioning, maybe even apologizing. Or maybe not. It didn't really matter. Grandpa Morrison had taught me that power doesn't require recognition to be real. Success doesn't require validation to be legitimate. And wealth used wisely is always more valuable than wealth displayed ostentatiously. I'd learned those lessons well, applied them consistently, and built something that would benefit my family for generations, whether they appreciated it or not. The quarterly distributions would continue. The portfolio would keep growing. And I would keep teaching 3rd grade and managing $750 million, because both mattered and neither required anyone's permission to do. That evening I received one more text. From Marcus. I looked up that Dubai deal after everyone left. You were right. It's all over the fraud warning websites. I would have lost everything. Thank you for stopping me. I typed back. That's what family does. We protect each other even when we don't always understand each other. His response came quickly. I understand now. Finally. Good, I replied. Now focus on your actual job and stop trying to be something you're not. You're good at client relations, Marcus. Be great at that instead of pretending to be an investment manager. Understood. Emma, Grandpa was right to trust you. I smiled at my phone, poured a glass of wine, and opened my laptop to review the Henderson Medical Technologies investment documents. Outside my window, the city lights sparkled against the evening sky. Somewhere out there, opportunities were emerging, companies were building revolutionary technologies, and wealth was being created and destroyed and redistributed. And I was right in the middle of it all, managing hundreds of millions of dollars while living a life that looked ordinary from the outside but was anything but just the way I liked it.